Hello and welcome. Sabina with Silver International Realty, recording from Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. My last condo listing, I received this call from a buyer who was really extremely frustrated. She told me that she has written over 10 offers, actually her agent had, and none of her offers had been accepted. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and make this video to give you some tips on how your offer can stand out in this multiple offer situation and crazy hot market. So the first thing we want to do is we want to make sure which type of contract we're using in Florida. We have the crisp, the as-is, and the FABA. So for this example, I'm just going to go and use the as-is contract to kind of just point out a couple of items that can make your offer stand out. Price, are you paying above asking price, or are we still on asking price and we are trying to tweak the terms in the contract? That will always depend on your situation. How much money are you putting down? If I have an offer in front of me where the buyer's putting $2,000 down and I have another one where they're putting $50,000 down, you bet the seller's going to look at that one in a very different angle. I had multiple offers on my condo listing, and the buyer that won the bid actually put $100,000 down. Obviously, your closing date. How do you find out what's important to the seller? Every seller has a different need. Are you dealing with an investor that's doing a 1031 exchange and has a certain timeline? Are you dealing with a seller that has another house and wants to close as quickly as possible? Or are you dealing with a seller who possibly would like to stay a couple months after closing? Well, there is your communication between your buyer's agent and the listing agent to find out what is important to your seller. Not all that lucky that we can pay cash for the homes. In the seller's market, cash is always the king. But if you do have to finance, there's a couple of things you can do to increase your odds of getting your offer through. For starters, you can remove your financing contingency if you know for sure that you are going to get that loan approved. So let me give you an example. I had my buyers who purchased a home, new construction, and they had to put 10% down hard money without knowing if they're going to get financing. So I advised them to reach out to the lender and go through the underwriting process to make sure that their loan can get approved. So those are some of the options that you can do. Of course, you are taking a risk, and that will have to do with the appraisal, which I can elaborate in another video on. So here are basically the expenses that are outlined by the Florida as-is contract on who pays what. So obviously, traditionally speaking, the seller will pay for the duck stems on the deed and then the real estate commission, and the buyer will pay for the closing cost. Well, in a multiple offer situation, you don't want to put the closing cost for the buyer on the seller side. So you need to discuss that and make a good, clean, solid offer. And then, of course, your inspection period. So when you use the as-is contract, you actually have 15 days to cancel and do your due diligence. I never, ever recommend anyone to buy a home without doing a home inspection. But what I do recommend you is to reduce that period from 15 days to 10, and now your offer will stand out just a little bit more than the other ones. Escalation clause. So on one of my last offers, one agent included an escalation clause. So it read like this: buyer to pay $1,000 more on highest offer, not to exceed $1 million. So what that means is if you have four offers, that particular buyer was willing to go and pay $1,000 more than the highest offer on the table. Of course, that offer has to be presented to that buyer to, to show you that they indeed had that offer on the table. I think that's a good strategy because, rather than you coming in $5,000 higher, you stay at asking, but you include an escalation clause to increase your chances of getting that offer accepted. So take a look at these heat maps and look, all the yellow ones are pendings and the greens are new listings. So, if there is multiple offers, your offer may, even after trying all these strategies, does not get accepted. So what can you do? You could write a backup offer, because if that first offer does not go through and something happens to that buyer, then your backup offer automatically comes into first place, and now you don't have to compete again in a very tough market. We all know it's a seller's market. We know prices are insane, have gone up 30%. So before you jump in there and write your offer, do consult a local market expert and make sure that that offer still makes sense. I wish I could tell you that there is one thing that will fit every single transaction, but that's really not the case. So each transaction, each home and offer I write is, you have to use different strategies. You have to figure out, number one, what is most important to the seller. And then you try to tweak those terms, and it's not always about having the highest offer on the table. Of course, it helps, and sometimes, yes, that's what they want, but there are situations where the seller gets emotional and wants somebody to take care of their home. If I'm writing an offer for an investor and I need to incorporate a 1031 exchange deadline, all these factors are really important. But the most important thing, I think, that the most critical component is you got to talk to the listing agent. You got to find out, what does the seller want? And then you try to tweak it to make your offer stand out. Good luck on your next offer. I hope you get it. And until the next time, auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.